In a so-called free state, officials and stakeholders concoct solutions to problems often created by other bureaucrats and with little regard for infringements on the people. These stories are born at the apex of freedom and entrepreneurship. We foolishly advocate for the taxpayer. Brian's Beat presents Freedom Fools.
I was out running getting some tea. Well, kind of. Actually, I was getting our guest. Hour 3 of Freedom Fools. Yes, I'm back. Tea's over there. Susan Murray is sitting right here in front of me. She is the head of the Southeastern Massachusetts Agricultural Partnership, probably the ED, which could be confused for something else that we probably won't go down that road today. Susan, thank you so much for coming in studio. Glad to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
So what do you do? Why should we, people in this vicinity, why should we care about CMAP?
Well, we are an organization that helps farmers. So we promote local food. We give technical assistance to farmers. We advocate for farmers. We advocate at the state level, but we also advocate to consumers of why they should support local farms and why they should care.
Well, I think as we are looking, I'll let you answer this question. I shop across the street of that Stop and Shop. I shop at the Shaw's. I shop at Market Basket. Every once in a while I go to the farmer's market. The one thing that I do find where, let's say 2, 3, 5 years ago, back when you and I first met a long time ago, your prices weren't competitive with the supermarket. Now you guys are competitive with the supermarket. And I think it's more that the supermarket prices are going up. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So local food, sometimes it can be more expensive. But a lot of times when you go into a grocery store and you're buying all your groceries, you don't really pay attention to how much those vegetables cost, how much those fruit cost. Maybe you'll look at a price, but you don't look at your overall bill. When you go to the farmer's market, you scrutinize everything and you know exactly how much you spent on your vegetables when you left. So some of it, I think, is that prices, we have looked at price comparisons as an organization that supports farmers. And the prices can be a lot more similar than people realize. But again, you're going to the farmer's market to buy your vegetables and, maybe you're buying some meat, but nothing else. Whereas a grocery store, you've got a whole bill. And I think the vegetables get lost in that. And sometimes you don't weigh things out. Like, how much did that butternut cost? Did you weigh that out? Do you really know? But, you're watching at the farmer's market. You watch that farmer put that on the scale and weigh it out. So there's that piece of awareness of what you're actually spending on your vegetables.
Plus, you're getting stuff that I hope is locally, not only locally grown, but locally seeded. Is that the right word to use?
Yeah, most farmers, they start their vegetables as seed. So from seed all the way to harvest, you're getting local. And you're not getting that at the grocery store. There's some grocery stores that will say they have local, but their definition of local is probably a little different than my definition of local.
Why would there be a different? Local is local. Are you trying to say maybe local New Hampshire?
Yeah. So when a grocery store is buying apples from New Zealand,
that's not local.
Local to them is New England or the Eastern Seaboard. It's relative. Local to me is the surrounding towns. So it's your perspective. So I run this organization, but I'm also a local farmer. I'm a farmer in Dartmouth. So our definitions are different based on our perspectives.
What kind of farm do you have?
So we're half poultry. So we're that dreaded egg farmer. And we're half vegetables. Yeah. You love us, you hate us.
Well, I don't know why we would hate you as an egg farmer, what have you done wrong? You don't have to worry. I'll let you answer. Is there a bird flu thing that we have to worry about with you?
Well, no, but I definitely, when I'm selling my eggs, so I go to a winter market all winter long. I did not raise the price of my eggs. My eggs have been the same price for 2 years now. We are thinking about raising it, but we raise it when our prices go up, and our prices are going up. Our labor prices are going up. But our prices are now, eggs are one thing that definitively we have been more expensive than grocery store eggs for a very long time.
Why is that?
That's because the grocery store eggs are subsidized by the U.S. government, and my eggs are not subsidized by the U.S. government. So think about and it's also, economy of scale in growing. So I have about 1,500 chickens, and the egg operations that produce that $2 a dozen eggs, or $2.50, what it used to be, they have millions of birds. And that company, they own the birds, they own the grain companies that feed them. So it's integrated. They own everything from start to finish. They can get things cheaper. But also the farmers that are growing the corn that's going into that feed, growing the soybeans, they get government payments. So they get a subsidy from the government.
All right. So you're a farmer. They're a farmer.
Yeah.
Why don't you get subsidized? Not that I want you to be. I'm just curious.
Yeah. So I don't grow thousands of acres of corn. So the subsidy system doesn't work for me. I am a very small farmer. So we grow on, we have 3 acres for our chickens and we have 3 acres for our vegetables, incredibly small space. I'm not big enough to get a subsidy. The subsidy program doesn't work really for New England in general. So there are other ways. We do have programs with the USDA. So that's the United States Department of Agriculture. So there's different branches of USDA, and there's some programs. I did get, a low cost greenhouse so that I can grow all winter long. So there's other ways that we get help. But we don't qualify for those big subsidies. So those eggs that were cheaper, you're paying for them in the end because your tax dollars are going to those subsidies. And then you think about they're driving the eggs around on roads, and roads are highly subsidized. There's just a lot of subsidies built in.
But you drive on roads too. You have to deliver, don't you, at some particular time, whether you're driving to the farmer's market or
absolutely
whatnot.
But I drive to Westport, and
those bumpy roads.
I drive down the street. So yes, I take advantage of that externality, so that price that's like put off onto other people, but it's not the same as driving eggs around the country.
We're talking to Susan Murray, who is the executive director, the ED, of the Southeastern Massachusetts Agricultural Partnership. All of this talk about tariffs, how is that affecting your business and the other farmers that you deal with?
We haven't seen the full effects yet. So a lot of the things that we buy for inputs, so the egg cartons that I use, I buy them from a company in Massachusetts. So farmers really try to spend their money locally. But I was looking at them, and I was looking at the sticker on the pellet. I buy it in pellet so I can save some money. I was looking at the sticker on them, and the egg cartons actually come from Brazil. So I buy them from Massachusetts company, but they come from Brazil. So
the cartons.
Okay. Yep, the cartons. We already pay way too much money for cartons that I think we should pay.
Can you recycle the cartons?
Oh, we reuse them. We ask customers to bring them back. We reuse them 100%. But I expect that those costs are going to start going up. And I have to raise my prices. I can't lose money. Obviously, I'm trying to run a business. I will raise my prices, but I'm also very conscientious about, you can't charge $10 for a bunch of carrots, but really the labor I put into those carrots, weeding them twice, I I probably should charge $10 a bunch, but that's local.
Would somebody come in and buy them at that price?
No one's going to buy them at that price. But also, I'm selling to my neighbors. I'm selling to my friends. It's different when you know the people you're selling to. Most farmers, well, all the farmers I know, but we really struggle with trying to keep our food affordable. We want to feed our neighbors. That's why we are small local farms feeding our neighbors. And we really struggle with pricing because of that. And that, that's one big difference is that, we are selling to people we know. Grocery stores, they are, it's faceless when they're choosing prices, right? They don't, obviously the people working in the grocery stores care about, they know people and everything. But, when they're setting the prices at a higher level, it's different than when you're a farmer that is feeding your community and you're very integrated in that community. You need to make a living, but also you're very conscientious about that pricing.
How long has Susan Murray been a farmer?
Since 2008.
So you weren't born a farmer?
No, this is my second career.
What made you get into farming?
So both my husband and I were in graduate school for biology, and we were doing our research, and it was all outside in nature, and we really enjoyed that. We really enjoyed working together, and we enjoyed working outside. And we came to the point where we were working on writing up our results, and we kind of saw the writing on the wall that the adventures we had as grad students wouldn't continue if we continued on in academia. We'd be more locked in offices and less adventures. And at the same time, we were living in Baton Rouge in Louisiana, and we were going to the farmers market. And I am from here originally. I grew up in Dartmouth, and my husband's from England. We'd never lived in a place like Louisiana, and, the fruit was amazing, and the pecans were amazing, and everything was amazing. So we would go to the farmer's market, and we would talk to the farmers, what did it take to grow this? We were just learning about our food system, and, just learning about, we went to the grocery store, how far away that came from, and just getting to know our local farmers and hear their stories, and just amazed by it. And we decided to make that leap from academia to taking an apprenticeship on a farm to see if that is the way we wanted to go. So we ended up apprenticing on a farm in Maryland. And the first day we fell in love. That was it. We loved it.
And how did that get you back to Dartmouth?
Well, little sidetrack. We ended up so our apprenticeship ended, and we thought we were the bee's knees and knew everything about farming. And we actually, I took a job. We were a little nervous about the jump to we'd never been self-employed before. We've always had a job. We were nervous about that self-employment jump. So I took a job in Mississippi at the Mississippi Museum of Natural History. And at the same time, my husband started farming full time. So we rented some land and we were growing. That was a trip. Who knew that armadillos were such a pest? And that we watched ants steal seeds off of our lettuce, stole all our lettuce seeds off the bed after we'd seeded it. So it was really interesting, and it was awakening. So we spent a year there farming and working, and we realized that you can't learn everything about farming in a short apprenticeship. And then really we didn't. Not only did we not know how to farm, but we didn't know anything about business management. And you can't be a farmer with your own, you can be a farmer working for someone else and a farm manager, and respect to everyone that chooses to work on farms and not own farms. There's a lot of people like that and that choose farming for a career. And that's really important that we have those people. But we really wanted to own our own farm and knew that found out we knew nothing about business management. So we decided to go for another apprenticeship that was out in the Berkshires in Massachusetts. So that brought us back to the state. And that was an amazing 2 years where we learned all aspects of vegetable production and animal production.
Do you get paid for these internships? I mean, how are you living?
Yeah, we did get paid back when, there's actually a different minimum wage for farmers. So the federal minimum wage for farming, which is what Massachusetts is currently at, is $8 an hour.
Oh. So
no.
I'm going to stop you for a second because we often have the debate about those that are in the country illegally working for less money than people that are here legally. I don't know how many people really want to do the farming work, but at $8 an hour, I could see how that would turn a lot of people away.
Nobody that I know can hire anyone for $8 an hour. You can't live on $8 an hour. Everyone I know pays above the Massachusetts minimum wage.
So above the $15.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You can't. Technically, it's $8, but you can't hire anyone for that.
So let's you're into the management, and 508-996-0500 if you'd like to ask Susan a question. I would wonder, because you got into, it is a business. And so if you're talking about paying employees, and you have employees at $15 an hour, you have to watch how much you charge for your carrots, your corn, your eggs. I don't know if you sell any of the chickens, but you have to be mindful that Stop and Shop or Shaw's or any of the other stores, they're going to be very competitive with you. So how do you do it?
I mean, we do cost analysis. So we look at our inputs. It's not always easy because we are a highly diversified farm. So sometimes it's really hard. Oh, that 100-foot bed of carrots or that 100-foot bed of, beans. Like, what was the different cost for that? But we do, over the years, we break down the costs for different crops, and we have, every year we kind of pick a different crop to say, like, hey, where are we at? Let's check in with this. So that's one thing, is doing that cost analysis, which, we'll do in the off season leading in. The other thing is, so this is our 14th year on this farm, and you get a feel for it. So, it's not like these prices are coming out of nowhere, right? We've had 14 years of experience. So you get an idea of like, ooh, that input just went up by that percentage. And so you can kind of track along. And then you see what people are willing to pay for things, so sometimes, the labor and the time and the input, it went into something and it was a lot. And what you should be charging when you think about what you need to make and to pay your bills. And sometimes you charge that and then, no one's willing to buy it and you have to lower it. And that's just, so you kind of, what it costs.
Doesn't the food go bad? I find when I buy organic all the time, and if I don't eat it within, let's say, a week, it's bad. It's perished.
It was also shipped across the country. So you get a little more life out of vegetables that you buy locally. So I find a bag of my lettuce or a bag of my spinach will last in your fridge for at least 2 weeks. And we are chemical free, but it's just, we are harvesting either the morning of or the day before, and it's just that much longer. And we also, the health of the plant really matters. So if you are harvesting really healthy plants, it's going to last longer in your fridge. But we do have a lot of waste, and that is one reason why we have the chickens. So we will feed the chickens our vegetable scraps, things that didn't sell, but also people won't buy ugly vegetables. They'll buy some ugly vegetables, but there's some out there. There are some pretty ugly vegetables.
It looks pretty bruised. Forget it.
Yeah, well, not bruised, so not damaged, but it just doesn't look like what you'd buy at the grocery store. So, the eggplant may have a nose on it. They grow these funny little noses and things like that, and some people love that, and some people just think that's not what it looks like in the grocery store, even though it's like a really good vegetable. So
it might not.
Yeah.
So I got to get into the dollars and cents of this, because it's my gut feeling that farmers like you are going to it's going to get real tight over the next several months. Obviously, we're going into that prime growing season, but tariffs and whatnot. Stop and Shop is going to try to be competitive. Or maybe I've got it wrong. Maybe this is an advantage for folks like you, because maybe stuff that comes from Brazil or Mexico, they're not going to be shipped into the United States because, we've got supply chain problems.
Well, it's already tough. So we've had a really tough 2 or 3 years for farmers. So we've had the inflation that's been going on, and our input costs have come up. And like I said, you can't charge $10 for a bunch of carrots. So our prices have been going up, and farmers in general around here have not been able to raise prices at the same rate that our inputs have gone up. So farmers are already feeling the squeeze. We also have had some significant weather events. So 2024 was actually a really good growing season. 2023 was super wet, and there was a lot of flooding. There's a lot of farmers out in Central Mass that lost everything, in Western Mass. Southeastern Mass, we were okay. I mean, it wasn't great. There was a lot of loss, but it wasn't as catastrophic as Central and Western Mass. And then 2022 was one of the worst droughts on record. So we had back-to-back bad years where there was a lot of crop loss and just not getting the yields, one because of the drought and one that it's too wet. You have these weather events, and then, besides the overall, it's too wet, it's too dry, you have really late freezes. So you get this freeze in May, and you've already planted your tomatoes in the ground, and you do everything to protect them, but you lose them and you have to replant. So there's also these one-off events that can cause significant damage. I remember a couple years ago, we lost all the peaches in Massachusetts and a lot of New England because we had one of those. We were
out in apples and peaches in Rochester. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we lost them across the state because there was a super late freeze, and the peaches had their flowers out already, and it was really bad timing, and the entire state lost peaches. So you start getting these events that are significant to farmers, whether it's like a full season of bad weather or just these one-off events that have significant effects. So that, coupled with the inflation and just getting crunched from both sides, farmers have had it really tough for the past couple of years. So
what about the COVID year? I know that's a long time ago, but
yeah,
what about March through September of 2020?
That was a drought year. So there was some tough growing conditions, but basically everybody rallied around local farmers. You couldn't get food. So those were good selling years, and there was a lot of interest in local, and people got really excited about and thankful because honestly, some people talk about their COVID years sitting on a couch. I was hustling, and farmers were hustling. We were out there trying not to get sick, trying to figure out what to do, social distancing with employee. Like, it was really difficult, but we had to grow the food. And so we were working really hard. And those were really tough years, but people started caring. And you know what? It felt pretty good that people were thankful for that local food and understood the importance of having a local food economy that they could rely on if the national economy fell apart and the national food system fell apart.
That's what I'm getting at, and one of the reasons why I wanted you in here today, because who knows exactly what's going to happen. I poke at the president enough, but maybe it works what he's trying to do now. Maybe it doesn't. I guess I have to take it from the side of the street that says, well, what do you do if it doesn't work? And that's why I want to find out, what are the local farmers up to? How do we help them? How do we keep our economy going?
Yeah, it's really important. So we saw that boost in the pandemic, and then it fell off a cliff. And so there was a lot of farms that put a lot of effort into growing their business during the first 2 COVID years. And then suddenly with inflation, everyone, and things were back, and you could get toilet paper again, and you're going back to the grocery store. And suddenly the interest in local fell off a cliff, and a lot of businesses were stuck because they had invested in the infrastructure of their farm so they could do home deliveries and they could meet the demand. And suddenly, as soon as there's a bit of inflation, everyone's like, oh no, local's too expensive. We're going back to the grocery store. We're cinching our belt. And I understand. I totally do. But farmers aren't going to be there to pick up the pieces again if we don't start supporting them now. And it doesn't have to be dramatic. So
what does it have to be?
Yeah. So our buddies, so we're a buy local organization. Our buddies out in Western Mass, they're called CISA, which is Community Involved in Sustaining Agriculture. They've actually done a local food impact calculator. You can go on their website, they're buylocal.org. Wonderful organization, friends of ours. And they've actually collected a lot of data, and they have come up with this statistics that I love. If everyone in Massachusetts were to shift, so not an additional $5, but just shift $5. So I'm going to go buy that pint of strawberries at the farmer's market instead of buying the strawberries in the grocery store. Just shift $5 every month. Very simple. It would increase the local food economy by $50 million a year. So every family, $5 a month, that's it. And it would create 1,600 new jobs in agriculture.
To be clear, my $5 works for me and my family, not every individual paying $5.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So how are you? I think that's a worthwhile message to get out there. And sure, you're saying it on WBSM, but how are you getting that message out to the masses here in the Commonwealth?
So it's hard. It's not easy. So we talk to as many people we can. We do outreach. We go to in the summer, we go to different events and just talk to people about the facts and answer questions about farming and why they should care.
There's no showmanship in that.
No.
I mean, that when you're talking about promotion,
yeah,
advertising, you got to wow them. Huh? You got to get out there and wow them.
We're working on it. So,
stick the carrot in their ear or something.
we are a nonprofit organization, so we run off of grants and we run off donations. And we're working on grants to do a bigger marketing campaign that would get people's attention, but it's not easy. It's not easy in this current climate to have the government, because those are most of the grants we get are either state or federal grants. The feds have kind of cut all that off. They're not really interested in promoting farmers right now. And so
they're not farmers, DEI, all kinds of things that they don't want to promote right now.
Yeah.
And maybe, I'm coming from the street that I sit on, maybe that never should have happened in the first place. But that being stated, then all the tax dollars that went, you guys it'd be a zero-sum gain, and you'd be back where you should be, just being able to plot away. Lost you, didn't I?
Yeah.
Okay. So in other words, if the government wasn't subsidizing, then they should not be taxing the people for it. So there would be the zero-sum gain.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we all lose out, because now you have to be careful about what you do because the government isn't willing to do X, Y, or Z. And then you got to look what Harvard's going through right now. Oh, is that what you want? Or do you want to run a thriving business and feed folks?
I want to run a thriving business and feed folks, and I also want to run a thriving nonprofit that helps farmers out.
That's what CMAP is.
That's what CMAP is, and it's an important job that a lot of people don't see.
Is a farm a nonprofit, or is a farm a for-profit entity?
Oh, it can be either. Most farms are for-profit entities, but you got to know that the farms around here, over 90% of the farms in Massachusetts are small family farms. So the farms that you're going to interact with, they really care about the community that they're in. A lot of them are really passionate about educating people about the vegetables you're buying, how to cook them, how to eat healthier. So there's like a whole piece. There's also the ecological services that farmers do. So we help maintain open space. There's a lot of benefits to having open space, trees, keeping healthy soils, we help clean the air, keep clean water. That's what farmers do. We're doing all these things that, we don't, there's no way in our economy to charge people for those ecological services, but by shopping at your local farm stand or farmer's market, you're also helping support that and helping support keep that open space and keep that land taken really care of, and there's a lot of farmers that sit on top of aquifers that, and I've talked to some of these farmers that their farm is on top of an aquifer and their town is drinking that water, and they feel very strongly that they're helping to shepherd in clean water by doing the right thing on top of that aquifer, making sure that they're growing cover crops and things like that keep a really healthy soil so things aren't leaching into that water.
I think people worry about the chemicals that farmers are using. Do we know any farmers around here that are using a lot of chemicals? And where are those chemicals coming from?
Wow, most of those chemicals are imported. So most farmers around here do something called IPM, which is integrated pest management. So we have a lot of farmers that follow organic standards, whether they're certified organic or they're just not using chemicals or they're very concerted. But all the farmers that I know around here, they are very conscientious and cautious about the chemicals that they do spray. And not all, because you call it a chemical, there can be synthetic chemicals, right? So ones that are
Is that
made
any
in
better
a
or any
lab.
worse?
Well, I mean, I don't think you can call it better or worse, but there's also like naturally derived pesticides that are allowed in organics and things like that. Regardless of what you're using to keep your plants healthy, all the farmers that I know in this area are very conscientious about what they're doing and only using the sprays that they use to address a particular problem, and are very conscientious about. They're not just spraying it willy-nilly, and you have to take classes and you have to be very, there's a lot of safety issues.
Farming is not easy and congratulations to you and your husband, because it sounds like a lot of work, and in general, farmers have no idea what the weather is going to be. You can plant a seed, you might have the best seed around, but if the weather isn't cooperating, if the crows are coming down, whatever the case, there could be a billion reasons why your crop doesn't pop up. And then the next year you're out there plugging away again.
Farmers are optimists. So every winter, I call it my winter brain, where everything looks beautiful. The financials look beautiful. It's going to be a beautiful year. You're planning, you're excited. And then you get into the season and it's a drought or whatever, but it rolls you over, and every morning you still get up and you still do your work. And then in the winter, in the fall, you're like, I don't know if there's going to another year in me. And sometime over the winter, that farmer optimism creeps in, and you're like, yeah, it's going to be a great year.
Where is the farm, Susan?
Dartmouth on Elm Street.
Dartmouth on Elm Street. Elm Street's a pretty long street. By the Cumberland Farms or down by the Peyton Arrow Bridge?
We're halfway between the old police station and the village.
By the cemetery?
Yeah.
Is that where?
It's like a 5-minute walk from the cemetery.
It's the cemetery where the farm is.
Oh.
I had to throw that in there.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Susan, one last pitch for how you want people to go out and help our local economy, because who knows where we're going to be 1 month, 2 months, 3 months from now.
Yeah, so you can go onto our website, which is cmaponline.org. So SEMAP online.org. And we have a local food guide on there that will show you where your local farm stand is, your local farmer's market, where your local seafood is, restaurants and local grocery stores that buy locally, We have a list of all that, and you can search it and find the ones close to you. The biggest thing you can do, go shopping at your farm stand, farmer's market. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. You know,
you said $5 a family.
$5 a family a month. But go visit. And
what about the folks that are on food stamps?
Oh, I mean, my farm accepts food stamps. So we are part of we accept SNAP, and there's the HIP program, the Healthy Incentives Program, which is a wonderful program. It's a dollar for dollar match on fruits and vegetables if you have SNAP. If you have SNAP, you qualify for HIP. You just go it's called DTAfinder.com, which is, it will help you find your closest farm stand or farmer's market that accepts the HIP benefit. So you can't use HIP in a grocery store. That's a beautiful thing. It's helping people who want to eat fresh local food, but it is maybe a little expensive, so they can get some free fruits and vegetables, and that really helps the farmer. So it's a win-win scenario. It's a wonderful program. Like I said, if you have SNAP, you qualify for HIP, and you could get, right now, the program's been cut by the state. We're really advocating for the state to put it back up.
I would think that the federal government is probably going to cut into that too, and then it might be a state program, but then the state has to pick up for where the federal government cuts.
Yeah, so SNAP obviously is federal, but HIP is it's completely funded by the state, and which is our state gets some things right. They just need to get it back up to the original amount. They cut it in half, basically. So, but you can get $20 every month of free fruits and vegetables on the HIP program if you have SNAP. So there are definitely ways. There's also farmer market coupons for seniors and people on WIC that they can use at the farmer's market. Those are ways that they help leverage your buying power. So you can also come support the local farmer's market.
So $5 a family. How many families do we have in the company? Do we have any idea?
I personally don't. Somebody does.
That should be interesting. Susan Murray, thank you so much for coming in
Thanks
today.
for having me on.
I really appreciate it. Susan Murray, she is the Executive Director of the Southeastern Massachusetts Agricultural Partnership. We'll take your calls as we wind down the clock on the first Freedom Fools on a Saturday afternoon. My thanks again to Susan Murray for coming in studio and helping us out. She is the Executive Director of the Southeastern Massachusetts Agricultural Partnership, and she is a farmer. I don't do it every week, but I try to once every 6-7 weeks get to a farmer's market. Now, after listening to Susan, I think it's worth it for me. I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but I think it's worth it for me and the community that I live and work in to spend $5. You go to a farmer's market, it's almost impossible to not spend $5. Whether you're getting cucumbers, tomatoes, blueberries, whatever the case may be, it is not difficult to spend $5. One item could be that butternut squash. Those things are heavy. So, again, I would even recommend taking the time to help out the local folk. During the holiday season, you notice that the city of New Bedford will block off downtown, shut the meters down, so people will go downtown and do shopping during the holiday season to help the local economy. Good idea. Wish they would do it 52 weeks of the year. But at some particular time, the yous and me's have to take advantage of what it is that we have around here. There are plenty of growers. There is plenty of food. Some food you might like, some food you may not like. But if you don't go check it out, how are you going to know? And it's amazing. $5 per family. I really do wish I knew how many families are in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to find out what really makes this work. And I think Susan, after this conversation that we just had, I'm sure she's going to go back and talk to her people, her farmers, her CMAP staff, and say, you know what? We've got to figure out a way to let folks, at least in our backyard, know how to go to these farmers markets, food trucks. I don't know, maybe the farmers make the effort to go back home to home. I don't know what would be the best plan for them. It's their business. But it doesn't seem like it's too much, especially with prices going the way that they are right now. $5? $5. And you could help the agricultural farming community throughout the Commonwealth. $5 a month. Not too difficult. Seems like the right thing to do, and especially since we don't know exactly what's going to be going on with the food economy around here. In an earlier conversation with Susan, I was surprised. She actually did bring this up when she was talking about the cartons that they use for the eggs. Come to find out that they're brought in from another country. We, the United States of America, we don't make egg cartons? Or at least not competitively enough that someone like Susan, who likes to buy local, has to resort to buying from Brazil? What else? I mean, I know it's a laundry list. I bought sneakers the other day. I think they were made in Pakistan. I don't know if what President Trump is trying to do with getting people to buy made in the USA is going to work. I think that there are a couple of battles that are going on with the idea. I think it's a good idea. But, number one, he's trying to get auto manufacturers to come back. Where are they? He was talking about Honda was going to be building a plant in, I think, Indiana. That's not what Honda said. Honda said that they were thinking about having a plant in Indiana. Nothing about building a plant in Indiana. So I say that to have, I have a lot of skepticism when it comes to how all of this is really going to work. And I think that you need to also, the economy slowed, gross domestic product slowed during the first quarter. At least it didn't go reverse. We have more and more people filing for unemployment. And I guess that stands to reason when you look at how many people have been chopped off from the federal government and from some very large employers. Of course, we're going to have people out there looking for some type of work. But it begs the question, what are the yous and me's going to do? There is the macro economy. That would be the world economy. That would be the United States economy. But then there is also the micro economy. What's happening in the Commonwealth? What's happening in the greater New Bedford area? What's happening to you and to me? And I was seriously, if you saw me at the grocery store, I was checking all the prices. But when I heard that Amazon was saying to its suppliers that they could no longer mark up what they give to Amazon, so then Amazon would have to turn around and mark up the price even more, I said that this is a game. And that happened after President Trump had a discussion with Jeff Bezos. So I get the feeling that things are being rigged. I say it's a feeling. I'm not pointing a definite finger, but, certainly we know this about Bezos. This is something anybody could read about. I'm not making it up. But what is the real end game here? We're told that the administration, the Trump administration, is meeting with China. China is saying it's fake news. Now I'm stuck in wondering, do I believe the Chinese? Or do I believe President Trump, who has already been hit, charged, and convicted for fibbing? It's a very precarious position to be in. And so I will continue to try to do my best bringing it to you on Saturday afternoon. And while I'm not going to go whole hog on trying to buy made in the USA, I will do my best to at least shop around and tell you what's out there, what you might like, and more importantly, what you just might not like. So if I'm to understand, the tariffs against China will not be at 145%. Is this some type of ploy? I mean, don't you feel like you're a bobblehead? You don't know exactly which way you're going to be going, left, right, up, down. And that's the uncertainty. And that's what keeps not only China, but Japan, an ally, from staying in bed with us. Adios.
Traveling around from town to town. Sometimes I think I'll settle down. But I know I'd hunger to be free. Roving's the only life for me. Adrifting. I'm traveling along the road.